Been a long time since I did one of these. Greetings, viewers! Night here, bringing you another character profile. I wasn't sure if I'd be doing another one of these, mainly because commentaries seem to get more attention than anything else I put on my channel. However, my last commentary reminded me of an idea I'd had months back that I wanted to do but lacked the motivation. In this character profile, I'm going to be discussing Squidilius McKraken from Yokai Watch, and Dame Dedtime from Yokai Watch 2 and Yokai Watch Psychic Spectres. So let me explain how I'll go about this. I'm going to be taking a look at McKraken and Dame Dedtime in a comparative sense. Things I'll be covering are their role in each game, their designs, their personalities, their boss battles and abilities, their forces, and ultimately how they serve as characters. P.S. If you haven't played Yokai Watch 2, or Psychic Spectres, this may contain spoilers. If you have played both games or don't really care about spoilers, please continue watching. The first game introduced Chairman Squidilius McKraken, a yokai who managed to conquer the yokai world after the death of its previous ruler, King Enma, despite it being guarded by the three Oni brothers, whom the fandom considers to be nigh invincible, whereas some players consider McKraken easy to defeat in his boss battles. His goal? To conquer the human world! No! None of that in this video. Shame on you, Internet. Anyway, this just really comes out of nowhere. Well, sort of. I'll talk about that a bit later. The bulk of the game had been the player going around their hometown Springdale, discovering yokai causing mischief, befriending them, not necessarily getting the yokai to change their behavior, mind you, just befriend them, or drive them off after a battle. There are only a few parts of the game that felt like they had a narrative behind them. Protecting three seals around town, who or what was causing fires in the marketplace, and discovering yokai that were hiding out in an abandoned hospital at night. It's really only the first and third storylines that I feel had any sort of ties to McKraken. The first major storyline that feels like it's more than just yokai wanting to cause mischief happens in Protect the Seals. After befriending Tattletale, who can cause anyone sentient spirits to reveal their secrets, the player discovers a plan by three yokai to break three seals around town in order to unleash a giant yokai named Slimamander. I bring this up because it's the exact same thing that happens towards the end of the game, after you beat McKraken in the yokai world. And Slimamander even refers to McKraken as Master. I'll be bringing that up later. McKraken himself only comes into the story after Dr. Madman has been defeated. Seeing as how Madman was trying to destroy the player by surgically removing their heart, it can be assumed that McKraken knew about the protagonist and considered them enough of a threat to send someone after them. Or more likely, one of Madman's own minions had told him about the protagonist, and when the player enters Nocturne Hospital at night, Madman sees an opportunity to get rid of them. After Madman's defeat, he cries out McKraken's name and disappears in a puff of smoke. The Draggy who was accompanying the player then tells them he feels a vision coming on through the crystal ball on top of his head. Looking through it, the player sees McKraken talking to his army of how they will soon invade and conquer the human world. The next morning, the player enters the yokai world, and, after several misadventures, confronts and battles McKraken in what was presumably Enma's throne room. After defeating McKraken here, McKraken vanishes to the human world with his forces, where they undo the seals, releasing Slimamander again. The player has to defeat Slimamander a second time, the three yokai that undid the seals, and McKraken a second time. McKraken takes on what might be his true form during the second battle, but is ultimately defeated and presumably destroyed. It's really hard to tell what McKraken's meant to be based on other than cephalopods. In his humanoid form, he has grayish skin, and wears something similar to a lab coat, as well as a squid-like hat. His hair and beard, which merge together, actually seem to be tentacles since they can strike out at the opponent during battle. He also has these holes in his hands to absorb energy, which kind of remind me of Dalon Wong from Jackie Chan Adventures. His second form kind of reminds me of Hannibal Roy Bean from Shaolin Showdown, whenever he'd used the Moby Morpher to make himself bigger, mainly due to the two giant tentacles on either side of his body, and when you first hear McKraken speak, you might pick up the faint hint of a southern accent in either form.
My Alright, yokai, the wait is over!
This form seems to merge McKraken's head and body together, since when you look at him from behind in the medallion, all you really see are his legs, which have now shrunken and are completely useless. And to move around, McKraken trumps around his now 2 giant hands. He can also flip up the upper half of his body and reveal a second mouth. Considering this and his chest seem to have eyes, it could be speculated that this is what McKraken really looks like, and the human face is just for show. There isn't too much to say about McKraken other than someone who desires power and rules through intimidation. He's also heavily prejudiced against humans, and is disgusted by any yokai that would side with them. Also, because the game's rank does depend on humor, McKraken makes a lot of squid puns in his dialogue. It's only after making it to the 5th level of the Infinite Inferno, and fighting the boss on the 6th stage, that we learn that McKraken has a cousin named Squisker, who McKraken had banished there after having failed to help him in a political takeover. From this, we can gather that McKraken doesn't tolerate failure, even from family members. So if you're the type of player who level grinds before facing the final boss in a game, this is what you'll want to do before facing McKraken in the yokai world. It's certainly what I did when I played the game. Of course, considering that the level up system is a bit slow, I can only half advise doing this. At the very least, you can farm for vampire fangs from the white abodabats in various dungeons in this level, since any yokai equipped with the vampire fangs will regain HP when performing a physical attack. The first battle will be against McKraken in his humanoid form. He'll strike out with his tentacle hair, absorb energy with his hands, blind your team with an ink attack, and attempt to use his ultimate attack if given enough time. Be sure to make his hands the pinpoint for attack during battle, since if they're struck enough times, they'll eventually turn red, and he'll be unable to use his absorption technique. When he's charging up his ultimate, McKraken will shield himself with the sentient tentacles behind his throne. I can't really tell you how to get around this, so it's best to have a very strong party, and be sure he goes down before he can actually launch his attack. In the second battle, McKraken assumes his true yokai form, or he transforms because he absorbed enough energy in the human world. Either way, this second boss battle will be far more difficult than the last, since this version of McKraken is prone to inspiriting your team. He'll usually do so either by leaning close in and swirling his eyes around, coughing up white ink onto your team, or performing the white impact attack, which undoes any positive experiments your team might perform. The focal point for attack during this battle is recommended to be the tentacles coming out of his nose. Attack them enough times and they'll retract. Then start attacking McKraken's chest, and his top half will eventually, for whatever reason, flip up, exposing a core that your party should then attack. As the battle progresses, McKraken will change color. This is when he becomes reasonably more dangerous, since he'll now be able to use various elemental attacks. So be prepared for anything when fighting McKraken in this form. Before you actually fight McKraken, however, you'll likely have to level grind through a ton of his followers, known as the White Yokai. Like McKraken, they just seemingly come out of nowhere towards the end of the game, for the sake of having a final group of enemies to fight. And in case you couldn't tell by their name, the White Yokai are recolors of yokai you've either faced before or rather rare yokai. Despite there being a vast army of these guys, really only 3 play any significant role in the game, and that's mainly because they undo the seals and release Slimeamander again. Speaking of Slimeamander, the wiki confirms that he and the yokai that were working to release him were part of McKraken's army. We can assume at some point during McKraken's crusade that Slimeamander was sealed in a statue in Springdale, and McKraken's in a 10-gloom, Machismo, and Peckpocket to release Slimeamander once he'd conquered the yokai world. Yes, 10-gloom and Peckpocket technically just want to use Slimeamander to intimidate others, and feel more important than they actually are, but because Slimeamander refers to McKraken as Master after you fight him for a second time during the game, would imply that the first quest was one of McKraken's earlier attempts to throw the human world into chaos. Since with the seals broken, the barriers between the yokai world and human world would be weakened, and humans would gradually start to see yokai, causing a mass hysteria. I already went over Madaman's role in the story and his possible motivations, so I won't repeat them here. A friend of mine did point out, however, that the yokai wiki lists the boss yokai, Massiface, as one of McKraken's henchmen. However, there's barely anything to tie Massiface to McKraken. since Masterface is portrayed as just a big, thundering beast of a humanoid yokai, who just so happened to be tromping around in QB's territory. QB himself admits he lured the player and Masterface to a construction site in the hopes that the player would fight Masterface for him. Considering that Masterface's attribute is Earth and QB's is Fire, I can sort of see why QB wouldn't want to fight Masterface himself. I also want to point out that pretty much anyone can edit a wiki page, so maybe someone just put Masterface on the list of McKraken's henchmen, and unless the creators of the game actually come right out and say that Masterface was one of McKraken's soldiers, I can't say whether or not Masterface is one of McKraken's servants with any certainty. So now that we're done with McKraken, let's move on to Dame Dedtime, who first appeared in Yokai Watch 2 and appeared in the sequel game Psychic Spectres. While it isn't apparent until much later, the time manipulator Dame Dedtime is the primary antagonist throughout the game, with the exception of a few boss battles. At the start of the game, she sends her most powerful minions Ken to present-day Springdale to take the player's Yokai Watch, as she despises the thought of yokais and anyone becoming friends. Unfortunately for Dedtime, the player is able to get the Yokai Watch back and reunite with Whisper and Jibanyan. Dedtime herself doesn't appear until after the battle against Ken in Old Springdale, and later on she appears during the battle between Burning Spirits and Fleshy Souls, where she reveals that she was using the war between both armies as a means to eliminate any possible oppositions you might face in the future. Like with McKraken, her goal was to conquer both humans and yokai, using both her army of wicked yokai and a noxious smog called the Dead Cloud that would inspire yokai and humans alike. After her defeat, Dame Dedtime appears in Psychic Spectres being held in a cell in the Infinite Inferno. It's honestly hard to tell whether the Infinite Inferno is a type of afterlife for wicked yokai, or just a part of the yokai world where the more chaotic and more powerful yokai gather. The wiki gives very limited information on it. Apparently a yokai named Directator wants to do a type of documentary on Dame Dedtime, since he's curious about why she has such resentment towards humanity. It's here we learn that Dame Dedtime was once human herself. She was originally a beautiful young woman named Otoko, who was engaged to a man named Senkichi and worked for her village's lord, where she was tasked with cleaning a very valuable clock. As fate would have it, one day the clock was mysteriously broken, and without any evidence that she was the one who had done it, Otoko was sentenced to a life of imprisonment. As time went on, she grew older and older. Otoko came to resent not only her jailers, but the world in general for allowing everything that she valued to be taken from her, and passed away with a bitter heart, only to be reborn as a yokai who resented humanity. The player isn't too convinced until they travel back in time and actually meet Otoko, proving that Dedtime wasn't just making things up. Directator also reveals that while he was traveling around the village himself, he discovered that Senkichi had been waiting for Otoko's release until eventually passing away. Hearing this and seeing footage taken by the Directator's Rabanyan cameraman, Dame Dedtime has an emotional breakdown, realizing that while she thought mankind had taken everything from her, she still had the love and devotion of the man she'd been taken from. This seems to purify her, and she becomes Dame Dedtime, a far kinder yokai, who then asks the player to seek out and befriend the wicked yokai who served her, while she herself chooses to stay at the Infinite Inferno. Dame Dedtime resembles a large, elderly woman with an unhealthy complexion and yellow eyes and teeth wearing a kimono. She also has purple hair which she keeps pinned up in a bun. Dedtime also carries a cane, either due to being elderly or just to look regal. Her face is often unkempt, aggressive, and wrinkled. When she becomes Dedtime though, she seems to develop a much healthier complexion, her makeup doesn't seem to be quite as overdone, and she appears and acts much kinder than she previously did. Also, despite apparently being purified of the evil in her heart, she chooses to stay in the Infinite Inferno for her past actions. After the second battle against her, Dedtime absorbs the energy all over Old Springdale, transforming herself into the rather demonic Dame Demona. No longer resembling a human in any way whatsoever, Demona has a coiled serpentine body, 4 clawed hands, blank red eyes, wings apparently pop out on either side of her head, and her hair ribbons apparently become dragons that can perform physical attacks and magical attacks during battle. Speaking personally, this form is rather dumb looking, and she appeared far more intimidating in her first stage. While she has her intimidating and serious moments, there is no denying that Dedtime tends to be a rather fun villain to watch whenever she's in a scene. Maybe it's because I was watching JohneAwesome play the second game, and his commentary tends to be very entertaining, but I always got the impression that Dame Dedtime was a very camp villain, especially given how John tends to give her a very hammy voice whenever he reads her dialogue.
Dame Dedtime, I'm the manager. Supervisor. No. I'm the boss of the wicked yokai. You might say I'm the final boss.
There's also the fact that she tends to provide her own theme music.
That dun 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 thing seems like a pretty bad soundtrack. Silence! My soundtrack is just fine!
It's just so silly, coming from someone who's trying to be taken seriously. However, she doesn't tolerate repeated displays of incompetence, as shown when she dismisses Unfairy, after Unfairy has been beaten by the player. When she becomes Dame Demona, her only desire is to take everything everyone holds dear and make it hers. But as previously stated, when she becomes Dame Dedtime, she becomes far kinder and motherly. She also chooses to stay sealed within the Infinite Inferno for her past actions, despite apparently being purified. Dame Dedtime can be fought in the Ironworks factory, where she intends to infect all of old Springdale with the Dead Cloud. Unlike with McKraken, grinding to a high level might work against you here, since Dedtime has the ability to take an opponent's level and use the energy to create an ally. She's also capable of firing lasers and using elemental attacks. And just when you think you might be able to beat her, she'll abruptly rewind the entire battle and bring it to an end. I did say earlier that she's a time manipulator, remember? She'll brag about her immortality, and the game not so subtly hints that it's connected to her servants Kin and Gin. After defeating them in battle, you face off against Dedtime a second time. Only this time, she won't be able to pull the same rewind trick she did previously. When she becomes Dame Demona, this boss becomes a lot more frustrating. Not only does she have a dragon for physical strength, and a dragon for magic attacks, she is capable of stealing the energy from your party while they're charging up their ultimate moves, and using it to perform hers. Also going along with her theme of taking everything for herself, she'll actually steal and attack one of your yokai was preparing to use, and use the attack herself. Hacks. Hacks. I call hacks. Yeah, in either form. This boss is going to be quite the frustrating challenge for you. Unlike McKraken and his white yokai army, Dame Dedtime servants appear right at the start of Yokai Watch 2. From their first appearance, we know that Dame Dedtime servants have the goal of preventing humans and yokai from having any sort of connection to each other, and later on revealed that they sort of had a hand in the war between the fleshies and the bonies, seemingly hoping that both sides would wipe each other out and eliminate any possible threat of opposition. Their ultimate goal is to spread a cloud of smog called the Dead Cloud over old Springdale, infecting everyone underneath it to become Dame Dedtime's brainwashed worshippers. The time-traveling pair of Kin and Gin do their best to be rid of the Yokai Watch and prevent Whisper and Jabonyan from ever meeting the player by attempting to coax them into altering their history, though both plans fail, of course. They're extraordinarily loyal to Dedtime and attempt to prevent her defeat in Psychic Specters, but the incompetence of their brother Bronzolo ultimately brings about their downfall. After the birth of Dame Dedtime, she herself birthed a brand new tribe of yokai called the Wicked Tribe. These are yokai born from her negative emotions. Yokai that can spirit both humans and other yokai into either going completely mad or performing wicked deeds. Being a part of Dedtime, the Wicked Tribe shares her resentment towards humanity and can't be befriended in the game they debut in. The more common members of this tribe are Loiter, Flicker, and Schemer, who are encountered after battling yokai they were possessing to perform wicked deeds. As the game progresses, the player encounters the elite executive wicked yokai, 5 extremely powerful wicked yokai, unfairy, unkeen, unpleasant, untidy, and unkind. Like Kin and Gin, they have an undying loyalty to Dame Dedtime, and state in Psychic Specters that now that she's reformed, they feel she no longer has any need of them, so agree to befriend the player after her battle. So now we come down to the last category of this video. Which of the two villains do I feel is a better character? While some people may like McKraken, he just comes too late into the story, feels too much like a generic villain with conquest as his only motive, and while I did consult the wiki, I am still left to speculate whether his minions were always following orders or carrying out their own plans. Dame Dedtime, on the other hand, does feel like she has more involvement in the game's story, while not Everything prior to time traveling back to old Springdale was influenced by her, and the story does show enough of Dame Dedtime and her subordinates Ken and Gin to get you wondering who they are and what they want. Unlike McKraken, who just sits back and waits for the player to come to him, Dedtime and her minions are far more proactive, confronting the main characters to taunt and eliminate them. Plus, not only does Dame Dedtime feel more challenging and entertaining than McKraken, she also gets something of a story arc. She wasn't evil simply to be evil, but because she felt wronged and wanted to take out her bitterness on the world. Yeah, you can argue that that's just as generic as wanting to conquer the world, but the way Dame Dedtime's backstory is written, it really seems to work for me. So this has been my second character profile. What do you guys think? Do you agree with what I've said here, or do you disagree? This is Nighthead saying thanks for listening, and please share your thoughts with me.